You're sitting across from them at dinner, and everything looks perfect. They're attentive, they're laughing at your jokes, and they're planning a vacation for next summer. But in their pocket, their phone is buzzing with a text from someone you've never heard of. This isn't the first time, and it won't be the last. Most people look at a serial cheater and see a monster, a liar, or someone who simply lacks a moral compass. We tell ourselves that they just don't love their partner enough, or that they're just addicted to sex. But if you ask the person living that double life, the truth is much quieter and much more disturbing. Today, on The Inverse Mind, we are going beneath the surface of the betrayal. We are going to deconstruct the internal world of the serial cheater. It's not about the person they're cheating with, and surprisingly, it's often not even about the person they're cheating on. It is about a desperate, high-stakes game of psychological survival. We are going to uncover the void they are trying to fill and why, for some people, one person will never be enough because they don't actually believe they are enough for themselves. To understand the serial cheater, we have to start by throwing away the traditional script. The common wisdom says that people cheat because they are unhappy in their relationship. If the sex was better, if the communication was clearer, or if the partner was more attentive, the cheating would stop. But for the serial cheater, this is a lie. Many serial cheaters are in objectively good relationships with partners they genuinely admire and, in their own way, love. The cheating doesn't happen because of a deficit in the partner. It happens because of a deficit in the self. It is a form of emotional regulation. When a serial cheater feels the walls of intimacy closing in, or when they feel the crushing weight of their own perceived inadequacy, they don't talk about it. They seek an exit. They seek a different version of themselves in someone else's eyes. This behavior is almost always rooted in a specific type of attachment wound. Most serial cheaters carry a disorganized or avoidant attachment style. As children, they learn that depending on one person was dangerous. If that one person, the mother or the father, let them down, their whole world collapsed. To survive, they developed a strategy of emotional insurance. They learned to never put all their eggs in one basket. By having multiple sources of validation, they ensure that if one person leaves or rejects them, they are never truly alone. They are constantly hedging their bets against abandonment. The tragedy is that this very strategy prevents them from ever experiencing the deep, singular intimacy they actually crave. They are standing in a room full of people, but they are always keeping one foot near the door. We have to look at the concept of compartmentalization. This is the primary psychological tool of the serial cheater. They are able to divide their lives into separate, airtight boxes. In one box, they are the loving father, the reliable husband, the pillar of the community. In the other box, they are the exciting stranger, the risk-taker, the person without responsibilities. These two versions of the self never meet. When they are with their partner, they aren't thinking about the affair. When they are with the affair partner, they aren't thinking about their home life. This isn't just a trick they play on others, it is a trick they play on their own brain to avoid the staggering weight of cognitive dissonance. If they allowed the two boxes to touch, the guilt would be paralyzing. So, they keep the lights off in the parts of their mind they don't want to see. For the serial cheater, the act of cheating is often a search for a lost part of themselves. It's what psychologists call the secret self. In their primary relationship, they feel burdened by the roles they have to play. They are a provider, a protector, a person with chores and bills and expectations. The affair partner doesn't know about the bills. The affair partner sees them as a hero, a mystery, a masterpiece. The cheater isn't addicted to the other person. They are addicted to the person they get to be when they are with that other person. It is a temporary vacation from the reality of being a human being. It is a hit of pure, uncut dopamine that makes them feel alive in a way that the stable, predictable rhythms of a long-term relationship never can. This leads us to the neurobiology of the hunt. For many serial cheaters, there is a literal addiction to the early stages of a relationship: the pursuit, the uncertainty, the rush of the new. This is fueled by dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. In a healthy, long-term relationship, dopamine eventually gives way to oxytocin, the chemical of bonding and comfort. But for some, oxytocin feels like boredom, or worse, it feels like being trapped. They misinterpret the calm of a stable relationship as the death of the relationship. So, they go back to the source. They look for a new person to trigger that dopamine spike. They are chasing a high that they know will eventually fade, leading them into an endless cycle of new beginnings that never reach a middle. But there is a darker layer to this, and it involves the concept of the narcissistic supply. Not all serial cheaters are narcissists, but many exhibit narcissistic traits. They use other people as mirrors to reflect back a version of themselves that they find acceptable. When the mirror of their primary partner starts to show their flaws, their aging, their mistakes, their ordinary human messiness, they find a new mirror. They need someone who doesn't know their history to look at them with unalloyed admiration. They are like a bucket with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much love and attention you pour in, it eventually leaks out, and they are empty again. They need a constant stream of new validation to keep the underlying sense of worthlessness at bay. One of the most common justifications you hear from a serial cheater is that they are doing it to save their marriage. They will say things like, "If I didn't have this outlet, I'd be so miserable I'd have to leave." This is a classic example of the inverse mind at work. They have convinced themselves that their betrayal is actually an act of loyalty. By getting their needs met elsewhere, they believe they can be a better and more patient partner at home. It is a total abdication of responsibility. Instead of doing the hard work of fixing the intimacy in their primary relationship, they outsource it. They are trying to have their cake and eat it too, without ever realizing that the cake is poisoned. We also have to talk about the thrill of the secret itself. For many serial cheaters, the sex is secondary to the deception. There is a profound sense of power in knowing something that your partner doesn't know. It creates a psychological distance that makes them feel untouchable. In childhood, these individuals may have had overbearing or intrusive parents who didn't allow them any privacy. As adults, they use secrets as a way to reclaim their autonomy. The affair is a private room in their mind where no one else is allowed. It is the only place where they feel they have total control. The more people they deceive, the more powerful and separate they feel. It is a lonely and hollow kind of power, but for someone terrified of being controlled, it feels like freedom. If you are the partner of a serial cheater, you are likely living in a state of constant gaslighting. Gaslighting is the process of making someone question their own reality so the cheater can keep their secrets safe. When you ask about the strange charge on the credit card or the late night at the office, they don't just lie, they turn it back on you. They might say, "You're just being insecure," or, "I can't believe you don't trust me after everything I've done for you." This is a survival tactic for them, but it is psychological warfare for you. It erodes your confidence and your intuition until you don't know what's true anymore. They aren't doing this because they want to hurt you. They are doing it because the truth is a threat to the fragile house of cards they built. Many serial cheaters also suffer from what is known as the Madonna-Whore Complex, or a variation of it. They split people into two categories: those who are pure and worth respecting, and those who are for pleasure. They cannot integrate sex and intimacy into one person. They might respect their spouse deeply but find it impossible to feel raw, uninhibited desire for them because that person is now a mother, a father, or a domestic partner. To them, desire requires distance and a lack of respect. So, they seek out partners they don't truly value to fulfill their sexual needs, preserving the purity of their home life. This split prevents them from ever being a whole person in any relationship. They are always fragmented, always hiding one part of themselves from the other. Breaking the cycle of serial cheating is incredibly difficult because it requires the person to face the very thing they are running from, themselves. They have to sit in the silence, and the boredom, and the inadequacy without the hit of a new affair. They have to realize that the problem isn't their partner, and it isn't the lack of excitement in their life. The problem is the internal void that they are trying to fill with the bodies and attention of others. Recovery involves the difficult work of integrating those separate boxes. It means bringing the secret self into the light, and admitting that they are not the hero or the master strategist they imagine themselves to be. It means realizing that they have been a ghost in their own life, never fully present anywhere. The question often asked is, can a serial cheater change? The answer is yes, but it is rare. It requires a level of radical honesty that most people find unbearable. They have to be willing to look at the wreckage they've caused and accept that they are the villain in someone else's story. They have to give up the power of the secret and embrace the vulnerability of being known. For a serial cheater, being known is the ultimate fear. If you truly see them, the real them, without the masks and the lies, they are terrified you will find them wanting. To change, they have to learn to find themselves enough, even when there is no one else there to tell them so. For the partners of serial cheaters, the practical advice is often the hardest to hear. You cannot love them into being faithful. You cannot be better enough, or prettier enough, or more exciting enough to stop them. Their cheating is not a reaction to your flaws. It is a reaction to their own internal chaos. If you stay, you are staying with someone who has a deeply ingrained habit of using deception as a coping mechanism. Unless they are doing the deep, painful work of therapy to address their attachment wounds and their addiction to validation, the pattern will repeat. You have to decide if you are willing to be the anchor for someone who is constantly trying to drift away. Sovereignty in this situation means reclaiming your own reality. It means trusting your gut when things don't add up. It means refusing to accept the blame for their choices. When a serial cheater says, "I only did it because we were fighting," they are lying. They did it because they don't know how to handle conflict without seeking an outside escape. By seeing the behavior for what it truly is, a psychological defense mechanism, you can stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "Is this the life I want to live?" Because you are not responsible for their void, and you are certainly not responsible for filling it. The inverse mind teaches us that the loudest behaviors often come from the quietest fears. The serial cheater's need for more is actually a sign of how little they feel they have inside. They are running a race with no finish line, chasing a version of themselves that doesn't exist. True power doesn't come from having many lovers or many secrets. It comes from having the courage to be one whole person in one place at one time. It comes from the ability to be still and realize that you are enough, exactly as you are, without the mirrors and the masks. If you've been on either side of this dynamic, or if this deconstruction helped you see a pattern in your own life, subscribe to the Inverse Mind. We are stripping away the excuses and looking at the raw mechanics of the human heart. Tell me in the comments, do you believe in once a cheater, always a cheater? Is a biological reality or a choice that can be unlearned? Let's get into the deep psychology below. Stop running from yourself. I'll see you in the next one.